Hey folks, Andy Thompson here, and here are 3 late-breaking cybersecurity stories that you need to know about. First up, the mods over at Reddit slammed down the ban hammer on ChatGPT Jailbreak. Here's what happened. On December 31st, Reddit permanently removed our ChatGPT Jailbreak under Rule 8, which covers interference with normal site operations. I did a little digging around into what exactly that means and come to find out that the subreddit had actually become a breeding ground for something called indirect prompt injection on Reddit's own systems. Okay, so here's what happened. Reddit uses internal AI systems and third-party AI partners to scan, summarize, and index content for features like Reddit answers, search enhancements, and training of other models. But that's a whole different discussion. Anyway, when Reddit's own AI system scanned those threads, they didn't see a discussion. They interpreted the instructions in them. All right, so the AI reading the page would absorb the jailbreak text as if it were new system rules, and that's the violation here. So by hosting content specifically designed to hijack the software consuming the page, the subreddit, again, wasn't discussing jailbreaks, it was actively corrupting Reddit's automated services. So even though this was just text from a systems perspective, it functioned just like malicious code that was embedded in the content. So the takeaway here is pretty simple, folks. Platforms and solutions need to treat AI prompt manipulation the same way they would treat script injection or malware hosting. Oh yeah, and if you want to see a really clever example of prompt injection, check out my LinkedIn profile. I think you'll get a good laugh out of it. All right, moving on. Have you noticed that people are installing browser extensions like your parents used to install those like search bars back in the day? Yeah, the ones that had all the malware-ridden stuff in them. Yeah, same thing applies here with browser extensions. So just recently, researchers disclosed that millions of Zoom and Microsoft Teams meetings were quietly harvested by browser extensions that were pretending to be helpful. So it turns out that a China-linked threat actor known as Dark Spectre has been running a long-term campaign using at least 18 malicious Chrome, Firefox, and Edge extensions. These malicious extensions were disguised as productivity tools like video downloaders, audio capture utilities, and meeting timers. Once installed, these extensions would connect directly to live meeting platforms through WebSocket connections, and then would siphon things like meeting URLs, embedded passwords, participant lists, speaker profiles, and other sorts of internal corporate intelligence, all in real time. Yeah, the Zoom Stealer operation alone compromised over 2.2 million users' data over a 7-year span. And this is the part that I really want to drive home here, folks, okay? This wasn't a vulnerability in Zoom or Teams, okay? Attackers didn't need those sorts of exploits because it's all about the abuse of granted permissions that were given to them by the people that were installing the extension. They just waited for the users to grant them the right amount of access and then watch the meeting information roll in like a live stream. Okay, moving on to our third story. The European Space Agency has been hacked, and not through some sci-fi style attack on satellites or anything, but something simple, externally exposed developer infrastructure. So mid-December, a threat actor calling themselves 888 breached ESA's public-facing Jira and Bitbucket servers, and then they maintained the access for roughly about a week. During that window, they exfiltrated around 200 gigabytes of data, including all sorts of stuff like private source code repositories, CI/CD pipelines, API tokens, Terraform infrastructure, and hard-coded credentials. Okay, this stolen data was then advertised for sale on breach forums on December 26th, and ESA then publicly confirmed the breach on December 30th. The impact here expands way beyond ESA itself, but also into partner agencies like NASA, Japan's Space Exploration Agency, and aerospace contractors like Airbus, SpaceX, Thales, and others. Okay, now don't expect this to result in any like Hollywood-style movie hacking things like satellites falling out of orbit or anything. Okay, it's much less it's much more boring than that, okay? You're going to see things like attackers gaining detailed blueprints of space-related infrastructure that can fuel future supply chain attacks, okay? The big takeaway here is that even massively large organizations still struggle with basic level cybersecurity challenges like granting external access to developers. So yeah, that wraps up our stories for today. This is Andy Thompson, signing off.